take all 3 points. It's Kitson against Kenny, and Kenny saves it. What a stop down low to his left. Dave Kitson knows he should have finished that, but it stays all square at Bramall Lane. What a save.
Welcome back to Inside United. It's been a long old time, hasn't it, since we last met, but it's great to be back, and our first guest of this new section is none other than former Sheffield United goalkeeper Paddy Kenny. How you doing, Paddy?
Hello, Paul. I'm good. Are you?
Yeah, very good. Good to see you again. Good to see you smiling.
Yeah, yourself as well. As always.
How have you been throughout all this lockdown stuff? How have you been keeping yourself busy?
It's been difficult. I do a lot of walking now. I go out running, and I've got young kids. So yeah, just try to keep yourself busy with that more than anything.
Wedding to plan.
Good time for everybody, isn't it? And I'm just hoping there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel come start next year, hopefully.
Wedding to plan as well?
Wedding to plan as well, so that's exciting as well, but I'm sure that'll soon come round.
Well, congratulations in advance of that coming round. Obviously, we get people on this podcast to talk about their journey. Let's obviously look at yours, and I'm intrigued to know how your move to Sheffield United came about in the first place, really, because it's an interesting story because you were playing, semi-pro, and you were working at the same time. Tell us a bit about that. Yeah,
like I said, I was playing for Bradford Park Avenue, semi-pro, which people don't realise it's harder than you think. That sort of work. It's harder than being a pro because you try to juggle training and playing along with full-time job, and you're working. You might go to work at 7 o'clock one day and not finish till 4 or 5, and then you got to shoot off to a game, and then you play and you don't get home till that. So it's a tough life. And lucky enough, I managed to play in a match when Neil Warnock and Ron Reid had come to watch a striker from the other team as it goes, and lucky enough, I had a good game at the right time, and they actually took me on trial off the back of my performance that day, and basically ended up signing me for Bury, and the rest ended up as history, didn't it?
Had you been playing well up to that point?
I weren't playing too bad. I was still young. It was hard juggling, like I said, both jobs together, but I've been doing all right to say my first year at that sort of level. And like I said, lucky enough, I had a good game. And listen, it's all about sometimes you've got to be in the right place at the right time. And I definitely was that day and had the right performance at the right time.
Because Halifax obviously let you go, didn't they?
Yeah.
I assumed at that point that you thought the dream of being a professional footballer had gone.
Yeah, I think you do. 15, going on 16, told I was never going to be goalkeeper because I was too small. Said I was good enough, but just not tall enough. I was still young. It was 6 months later then when I'd shot up, and I was playing locally in Halifax at the time. And when I look back now, I didn't think at the time, but each season I gradually started moving up a division, a few divisions. So I went from lower league in Halifax, Saturday and Sunday league, to all of a sudden season after I was up in top leagues, and then moved on to the West Riding leagues the season after that, and then on to semi-professional at Bradford Park Avenue. So over a 3 or 4 year period, I gradually started climbing and getting to better levels each time. And I didn't realise at the time, but obviously you look back now and that were what got me going, really.
And were people in your ear through that point saying, Paddy, if you knuckle down, there might be something in this for you, or not?
Yeah, I had a lot of people used to say to me that I was good enough, but you just take it with a pinch of salt. You don't know, do you? I'm playing locally. I had a good friend of mine, Bobby Barr, who actually got me to go to Bradford Park Avenue. He was assistant manager at the time, and him and Trevor Staunton, he was the manager who played for Liverpool back in the day. It were them two that would try to say to me, you've got to get your head down. You do well here. You could go on to better things, and they were right, and they pushed me, and lucky enough, it come off.
So when Neil and Ron Reid came down and they collared you presumably after that game, what did they say to you? What was the conversation
No,
like?
I didn't speak to them. They touched base with Trevor Staunton. I think Ron Reid knew Trevor Staunton along the way, and it were basically through them. And they just said, listen, Bury, I'd been on trial though at Birmingham City for a few weeks prior to this. and they told me that Bury had come in, wanted me to go on trial, and I managed to go on trial there. Played in 2 matches, 2 friendlies, did reasonably well, and then I had 2 offers on the table from both clubs. But I remember sitting down with Trevor Staunton, who he's passed now, and he said to me, advised me, I think you're better off going to Bury. They were in division equivalent to Championship now, both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
He says, I think you've got more chance of getting a chance if you go to Bury rather than Birmingham. And so I made that decision off the back of what he said. And lucky enough, like I've said, it was the correct decision.
Was it Dean Kiley who was their number 1 when you went?
Yeah.
And were you signed initially as backup for him then, or what?
Yeah, they didn't even have another keeper. It was Dean Kiley, and that were it. And then number 15, 16's YTS or whatever it was. So I went in there and it was brilliant working with Dean, going in there, and that's where I started to learn my trade and try to get used to professional football, day in, day out training, the standards that people set. And working with Dean were a massive help in my early days.
And presumably you didn't get in the first team straight away, did you? Or did you?
No, that first season, it was weird. You know, when you say right place at right time, there was something that happened that worked my way as well. That the season that first season I went to Bury, we got relegated down a league, and it were all off the back of the league had changed it for 1 season. It wasn't goal difference; it was goals for. So they changed it for 1 season only. And how it turned out, I think it was Port Vale. We finished on the same points. We had a better goal difference, but they'd scored more goals than us. So they stayed up and we went down. And it was like, it all happened for that 1 season and 1 season only. And off the back of Bury going down, they had to sell the likes of Chris Laquette, Dean Kiley, and a few others. And that obviously then gave him my chance. I remember that summer when Dean had left, and Warnock rung me in to go in about 2 weeks before pre-season and basically says, you've got 5 games and it's your shirt for 5 games, and it's either that or not. We'll see what happens. So it put me under massive pressure to start with, but I managed to do okay, and I managed to stay in the team and keep in position then for the next 3 seasons.
He's obviously been a massive part of your career, Neil, and we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But
do you think so?
Yeah, just a bit, considering how many flipping times he signed you. But obviously he would then move on, wouldn't he? And leave you behind. How did you feel about that when he left Bury?
At the time, I didn't think much of it. Obviously, gone to Sheffield United, massive club. I didn't realise how big a club it was at the time. I was just focused on Bury and doing well for them, and basically trying to establish myself and basically get some games behind me. I was still raw. I was 20-year-old when I turned professional and didn't really know the score. So I was learning a lot. Bury was a great learning curve for me, and obviously Neil went on to Sheffield United, and I just carried on doing my normal thing at Bury as a players do.
So when the call came, what did the conversation go like?
I remember actually it had been mentioned, and I did it the week before, and then it went quiet. And then I remember going in for training one day pre-season, and Andy Priest was my manager at Bury at the time, and he got me in his office and he said, "We've sold you." That was it. We've sold you. You go to Sheffield United. And I'm like, what? So I literally come out of the ground, didn't even train, headed off back home, rung my agent. He didn't even say it. He just said, "This is what you're earning, and this is your contract." Tough crap. And then next thing I spoke to Neil, and it was basically coming tomorrow, which were on the Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. We're going to train in the morning, and then we're playing Baslow in the evening, and you're playing that game as well. So get ready. Nice difference in the paycheck. A little bit different, yeah. We're ridiculous. It was just a chance to go up. Because Bury had been relegated again that season, I was jumping up technically 2 levels. Yeah. So it was a chance for me to go in there. Like I said, I didn't realise how big neither clubs, Sheffield clubs, were at the time. And I managed to go in there, and all of a sudden, I'd gone from being like one of lads at dressing room to all of a sudden have new dressing room and I was quiet as a mouse. Never set out for first season, I don't think.
And your first impressions of Sheffield United back then, can you remember what they were like?
Yeah, I remember. Well, first day I turned in because at Bury we used to train at the stadium and we'd have to drive down to the training ground and I used to have to run back because it was just on a park. I would get that muddy out to run back through a graveyard.
As you do.
Honestly, to get back to training ground, back to the stadium, and then all of a sudden I've gone to Bury and to Sheffield United, and even though Shire, where did we train when I first went there?
It wouldn't have been Shirecliffe, would it? It was.
No, where's Shirecliffe? What's it called?
No, I know exactly where it was, and it'll come
have
to me in a
to
minute.
change it. Put it this way: main or wet gym were in the training ground. We had to put buckets when it rained.
Yeah. I remember. I'm trying to place what it was. Was it up Ecclesall way?
Into Sheffield. Yeah, up that way. Yeah.
It was up that way. Yeah.
Anyway, and I balled up. Then all of a sudden, training kit was set out.
Yeah.
We had, whereas at Bury it were, and all of a sudden you've got your own little setup there, your training ground. You're not having to get pictures were a lot. You got your own pictures. It was like wow. And then that night we went and played at Baslow, and I'm sure there were about 3,500 there. And I was like, wow, we don't even get this for a league game at Bury. And it was like, this is a friendly for God's sake. So it was a massive. It was a massive jump, and it were obviously a massive club to go to.
And who were the big personalities in that dressing room?
Oh, you had like Brownie, Robert Page, Rob Ullathorne. There were some big characters. Trace was still trying to come back from from his injury. So he had a lot of big characters around. So it were quite daunting at first, but soon settled in. And obviously once season started and started doing all right, soon settled me down.
And they've been through a rough time, let's not forget, because prior to Neil coming in under Adrian Heath, the crowds were significantly down, and I mean down. He had a big job initially. I think for the Port Vale game, it was less than 10,000, I think, for the Port Vale game.
I'm sure when we played my first home game, so we lost away at Coventry first game.
Yeah.
Then we played Portsmouth.
That's right.
I'm sure there were only about 13,000 there that day.
Paul Devlin, wasn't it? With the winning goal in his first... Was that Neil Warnock?
No, he weren't there when I was there.
Right, so it must have been the season after then. Yeah.
Season before.
Yeah, Neil's first game was Portsmouth at home, as I recall.
No, so that was my first home game, Portsmouth. There were about 13,000 there, and obviously that was massive to me.
Yeah.
And obviously them crowds soon changed as that season went along, because come end of season or through the season, there was 25,000, 30,000 every week then.
You talk about Neil and, he signed you so many times. What is it about him, do you think, that gets the best out of you as a keeper?
I just think he filled me with confidence all the time, which is a massive thing, especially for any player, but for a goalkeeper, especially for me, it was. And I just think the way he handled me, I think we spoke, when I signed for Leeds, I spoke about him and I just said, why do you keep signing me? And he just says, listen, I know what I'm going to get from you on and off the pitch. I know I'm going to get bits and bats off the pitch I'm going to have to deal with. He says, but I know where I stand with you on the pitch. And he says, I know what I'm going to get week in, week out. And we work well, we'll fall out, we make up, we don't fall out, and it's a massive grudge for weeks and months. It's just sorted straight away. And I think that's what he loved about me, and I loved about him, really.
Obviously, we saw him on the sidelines a lot doing his nut, and we heard him in the press saying outlandish things at times, having a pop at referees, and then he'd be out there in his shorts and his zip up top and his socks pulled right up. Did you ever look across at the touchline and think, oh, Neil, why have you gone for the shorts and sock combo today? Look at the state of you.
Do you know what? One time I'll never forget. I forget who we were playing, and we're coming off at half time, and you've got the opposite manager. He's putting his arm around referee like balling, and Warnock's absolutely hammering him, the ref. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, Gaffer, please shut up, because if I were referee and second half was out 50-50, I know which way I'd do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, just shut up, please. I never said it to him, like, told him to bog off. But yeah.
But the thing is, other players who perhaps haven't who haven't played for him perhaps have a perception of him, don't they? But every player you speak to that has speaks really affectionately about him.
Yeah, I think it's man management, mate. He's so clever the way he treats you, and he looks after players, and I think you can see it everywhere he's gone. He's done it. He's done it at Cardiff. Do you know what I mean? He's now gone up to Middlesbrough. He's doing it there.
Yeah.
He did it at QPR. Did it at Sheffield United. It can't be coincidence. It can't be luck every time. And
no chance.
I don't think it's the most attractive football you'll ever see in the league. Just little things like, if Monty gets balls, don't do else apart from pass it to the nearest player, because that's all you can do. you weren't afraid to say that to Monty. But I just think, like I said, with what he does and how he wants you to play, it just seems to work everywhere he goes.
Talk about promotion, which obviously was a highlight, but the season where you got to the 2 cup semi-finals and the playoff final, that season will always live with me because of how dramatic it was. Sadly, it didn't end in promotion, but the games that you had, the teams that you beat, the dramatic late winners. I mean, that in many ways, you might argue differently, was perhaps at times more memorable than the promotion winning season because of what went on and the opposition to beat. I mean, that was just a phenomenal season, wasn't it?
I can touch base with it. I can touch there with what you're saying, because I can remember more about that season than I can the promotion season, if I'm honest. That was a frightening season. I've touched on it before where I've said it were an unbelievable season without achieving out.
Yeah.
And it was. Listen, Sheffield United have been struggling for a few years, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? Then all of a sudden, that one season, you've got to 2 cup semi-finals, beating Premier League teams along the way with some unbelievable nights at Bramall Lane. And then the season we had, and then even the playoff semi-final, the second leg, it couldn't have been any more dramatic, could it?
Still one of the best games I've ever seen live, that.
And
amazing.
And the only disappointing thing about, I just wish we'd have given a better account of ourselves in the playoff. They'd gone so good that season. That it just were disappointed that one game that was so important that we didn't give a good, where all season would give a good, whoever we'd played, even in the both semi-finals, we could have won both of them, as daft as it sounds.
Yeah.
But then that one important game that meant this last game, I just felt like we let ourselves down.
What was it then? Was it a hint of complacency, or was it just a game too far?
I just think we'd had a ridiculous season, honestly. The amount, it were good in a way because we're playing week in, week out. And when you're winning, it's good to be like that. Sometimes when you're losing, you play on a Saturday, you don't want a game till the following Saturday. Do you know what I mean? But because we were winning, we were playing Saturday, Tuesday. And it were good, and you wanted them games to come. But then I just think as it went along, what happened where we'd gone from such a high against Forest, so then we didn't play for nearly 2 weeks, and it was the longest 2 weeks ever. And I just don't felt like if we'd have played 4 or 5 days later, I think it'd have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
But because there was I think it was 2 weeks between the semi-final and the final, I just felt like it took the fizz out of it for me, the sizzle, whatever you want to call it. And we just didn't turn up, did we? We were chasing it, and once you're 3-0 down, and even at 3-0, we did say at half time, we get next goal, who knows? You know what we've been like all season? We'll try to stay positive. And it's brilliant, we get a penalty, and you're thinking, I remember at the other end thinking, hey, here we go. What could happen here? And obviously Brownie had scored ridiculous goals that season.
Yeah. And
for him to miss a penalty just proves it weren't going to be our day that day.
No, I know. How was Neil afterwards? Because I thought that might be the day where he jacked it in.
Do you know what? I couldn't. It was just
a long time ago.
Yeah, and it's just one of them. If you'd have asked me day after what were he like or what we all like, I couldn't remember because it's like a daze. It's like when we lost in Burnley playoff final. No one knows what to say after a game. It's because there's so much riding on that one game. It's not like a league game where you can afford to lose and put it right the week after. Them playoff games. Once you get to that final, it's a lottery, and there's horrible games to play in. Yeah. I'm going to say that because I've lost 2 out of 2. But if I'd have won 2 out of 2, I'd have said they're brilliant.
No, but I think, as much as I thought Neil might jack it in, I think obviously it flipped the other way, didn't it? Because it became a motivation for him then to go one better, which obviously he went on to achieve. And that was a really good season as well. And, I've spoken to other people on this podcast who said that, I think it was an opening day win against Leicester, wasn't it? 4-1 or something like that. And I always kind of relay this story about Cozzy apparently said to the group, we're going to win promotion this year on the back of that one game at home. Yeah. And obviously it proved to be the case.
Well, the crazy thing was, I remember being in China. We'd had the worst pre-season I'd heard of. We'd had 12 flights in 10 days. We got battered in every game. Training we were getting weird before and after training. The lads were like half a stone, it was that humid. And I remember we were having a beer on last day before we come back. And we sat there and we said, we're going to have to book his ideas up or we're going down this season. We were like, and we're all looking, she was like, yeah, we do. And we come back and I think we won 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
We were like, oh my God, wow. Where's that come from? We couldn't buy a win pre-season.
No, I mean, it was a great start to that particular season. And obviously finishing it in the way that you did, that obviously would be a great memory for you. And a career highlight, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. I think that game when we won at Cardiff 1-0, I think Webb scored, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I remember us coming home, we were all on coach that day, and we were more or less there. I think there were 3 or 4 games still to play, but we knew Leeds were playing Reading the following day we played Good Friday, I think it was, and they were playing on Saturday. Yeah. And I remember we were all a little bit giddy, thinking we're there, but we're not. And we were like, right, we're going to meet up for the match on Saturday. We'll meet at half time, and obviously because if they don't win, we're up.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm sure when I was leaving my house at Northampton, it was 0-0. And by the time I got in the car, Leeds went 1-0 up. So when I got to training ground, it was 1-0, and we were like, oh no, we were hoping to be celebrated. Reading had already been promoted; they wouldn't league easy, hadn't they?
Yeah.
And it were obviously, I remember, what's his name, who does Sky, Jeff Stelling. It was like 85th minute or something. There's a goal at Ellen Road, and we were all in training ground, Sky cameras there, and I mean, who scored? But I don't know if you ever know, down in the bottom corner, the score normally comes up first.
Yeah.
And we all saw it, 1-1. And that was before they even panned, and they were just mental. And then when that final whistle went, when the draw 1-1, it was amazing. I think you're one of them. We'd have loved to have done it on pitch, but if it meant them taking it out of our hands and getting it out, done and dusted with, and taking pressure off us, it would just promotion. We'd done the hard work through the season. Yeah,
promotion, mate. Yeah, how did you celebrate that night or days after?
Wow, I can't remember. Honestly, I was so drunk. I think I was drunk before I left training ground for it in Sheffield. It was just partying everywhere. It was the most craziest night of my life.
And do you know when you ended up leaving the club? I only knew this because I listened to another podcast that you did recently, and I was a bit surprised because I can't actually remember it vividly, but obviously you felt like you left under a cloud, didn't you? Or people had a go at you for the wrong reasons. I don't remember that personally. I'm not saying I don't believe you. I just don't remember it. I didn't realise that you left with perhaps not the blessing of everybody that you would want to have the blessing of.
So, listen, I'd had 8 amazing years there, do you know what I mean? And crowd, I had such a good relationship with not just the crowd and the fans, but people connected to the club. I've still got friends there that I still speak to this day.
Yeah.
And not for 1 minute did I want to leave. When I look back, what sticks out was when I got banned, the club stuck by me, when I was driving back from Wembley and I'd been banned after me appeal and got turned down, I thought that was me done and dusted. I thought, I'm going to get sacked. I might never get a club again. That might be my career over with. And then the following day to be told that they're going to stick by me, I'm an asset to the club, but we're going to give you a new contract and we cut the wages in half and give me another year because I were up at the end of that year. I just couldn't believe it. It was massive for me. It gave me that hope that I could continue. I found it strange that the club put a buyout clause in my contract of 750 grand. I don't know why they put that in. And I don't know to this day. Were nothing to do with me. That were put in by the club. I don't know whether they thought I won't come back fit. I don't know. And then when I did come back, and I played my last 2 games at season, and what a reception I got! I remember like my eyes filling up when I played at Bramall Lane that first game when I come back after being out. My last game with Burnley in playoff final. It were one moment in my career that stands out massively. But on the other hand of it, when I come back and played my second match there, where I was playing for QPR, I got absolute belters. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, we're horrible. But when I look back now, and I remember getting told that Bristol City, Ipswich and QPR had activated the buyout clause, and that I can go and speak to them and leave if I want. Well, because as I was told that Steve Simonson was coming from a Premier League club, Premier League experience on a free transfer, we're getting money for you, and he's going to be on less wages, so it's a no-brainer from their point of view. I basically said I didn't want to go, and told, well, you're not really wanted here. And then that was it. Basically, I thought, right, fair enough. I'm not wanted. I'm not going to sit here if I'm not wanted. I never did it anywhere I were. When I wanted at Leeds, I left. I did it at QPR. When I wanted there, I left. So it was one of them. It was disappointing because I never wanted to leave. My older kids lived in Halifax. I lived in Sheffield. It were an hour away. It was perfect commute. All of a sudden, I was going to be in London. All of a sudden, it's a 4-hour drive. Do you know what I mean? It was a massive thing for me to do. It ended up turning out to be an amazing move. But one I didn't, if I'm 100% of it, never wanted to leave. I felt like I owed that club a lot, and I felt like I had a lot to offer. And I think that year out, and with my age, because obviously goalkeepers come into the prime at an older age, I felt like it made me appreciate the game more. And I come back, and then I think I proved over the next year or two that I were in good form. And it's just disappointing that never happened while I were at Sheffield United, because I felt like they were my best 2 years of my career. And a lot of people heard different stories. Listen, when I come back with QPR, that second game of the season, and I got absolute pelters, I'd have reacted the exact same as every fan. If I'd have been told what they just presumed I'd left for money, which wasn't true. I'd have reacted how they'd all reacted. But I just hope over this last few months or whatever I've been able to get it off my chest, because it's been a little cloud over me for years.
Yeah.
I still live in Sheffield, and it's just been nice to get it off. And I've had so many tweets and messages and people saying, sorry, I was one of them that hammered you, I take it back. And I'm like, listen, I'd have been like you, I'd have done the same. It happens, and I'm just glad people hopefully now see what really happened from my side of it anyway, and that not for 1 minute would I have jumped ship and gone off like that. I was reportedly told I'd done.
Yeah. It's tough, I think, for players, isn't it, in situations like that, because they don't always get the opportunity to say it how it is for a number of reasons. Obviously, clubs don't want them talking about them in perhaps unglowing terms, and players miss that chance to explain the exact reasons why. And I guess that's something you had to carry with you for a long time, obviously.
It has, yeah. And it's obviously, until I've done my book, that it's been nice to be able to get it out. And obviously with this lockdown, and I've done so many podcasts and obviously get asked this question so many times. And it's nice to get it out there and hope that people believe that was my side of the story. And I never, like I said, I never ever wanted to go. And they all broke my heart that day when they hammered me when I was at QPR, because I'd always been applauded and loved by that cop. And that day when I ran down to the cop and I'm quite emotional now thinking about it. I got absolute pelters and it hurt me so much. But like I said, that's football. I'd have probably reacted how they did, but it's gone now, and I hope they realise that wasn't what happened, and that I felt that I was forced out.
It's interesting you say about getting emotional and how it hurt you. You know, I watched you a lot throughout your time at Sheffield United. I saw you getting awful stick from away supporters, and you always put a brave face. Yeah, but you always put a brave face on. You laughed it off, but you know, behind closed doors were the times where you thought, "Oh, I don't know whether I deserve that," because you were almost at times like a pantomime villain in some games.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, I think sometimes you do cover it over. You take a lot of stick. I always took stick for whether my weight, my ex-wife, my eye being bitten, all things like that. Do you know what I mean? I had it all. And
it's been a colourful life, Paddy, hasn't
it? Sort of, yeah. But it's one of them. What do you do? Do I let them see that deep down they could be getting to me, or do I just play along with it and play the and I felt I dealt with it better by just going along with them and having the banter and all that lot, and it felt like it helped me deal with it a lot easier.
It's an escape, though, isn't it, as well, when you've got stuff going on in your private life, which we'll not cover because it's been done to death. But you know what I mean? When you've got problems at home, I guess for you, there were times where you just thought, right, put all that to one side for an hour and a half and I'll go and enjoy myself.
Well, I don't know if I could put it to one side for an hour and a half because I'd just get pelters on pitch. It was training I got away from it.
Oh, was it? Right, okay. Yeah, fair dues.
It was training I got away from it, man. It was, you have all that stuff. Listen, a lot of it weren't my fault. A lot of it, I put myself in positions I shouldn't have put myself in. I look back now and I was naive and stupid sometimes. But like I said, to have that escape of football, especially training, were good. And games, I say that with tongue in cheek about an hour and a half. I used to quite enjoy it. It give me that, I want to prove them wrong. Call me what you want. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm out here playing on that pitch. I'm the professional. I'm the one you're watching. And that's how I used to try to deal with it in my head.
Is the one game that stands out for United where you thought, that was my best ever game? And it might not be a game where, you know, there was a promotion at the end of it, but there might be one game that you look back on and think, that was the one where I thought, yeah, I'm absolutely on blob here.
It's a difficult one, that. There's one thing that always sticks out of me when I'm at Sheffield United, and it were me and Andy Leaning, when we speak every couple of weeks, me and Andy Leaning, who were goalkeeping coach, and we always talk about it because the one save I made at Bramall Lane on my debut at Bramall Lane, so it was the second game I played with Sheffield United, against Portsmouth. And I always say, and Andy agrees with me, that it would either make or break if I'd have messed up that day. And it was a routine shot through a lot of people straight at me, and I spilled it out in front of me and I fell forward. And I literally just stuck my hand up in the air and someone volleyed it and it hit my hand and went over the bar. And I think if that had gone in, we always say it could have been a totally different career at Sheffield United. And that, I always say, that one save that probably nobody will ever remember, apart from me and Andy, because it could have been a totally different story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and you didn't do bad afterwards either, because obviously you're still remembered as for playing your part in a game where there was a shot that you didn't save, the Aguero one. But in a weird way, you must be quite proud to have featured in that game, even though it didn't turn out how QPR wanted it to. But to be able to say you played in that game.
Well, yeah, it was a strange game. Obviously, it weren't the result we were after, but all that mattered on that day that we stayed up.
Yeah,
and I think people go on about that game, and it's a crazy. When I look back now, we're a crazy day, because 1 minute we were relegated, City were winning league. 10 minutes later, we were safe. City were winning league, and the next thing got told we'd stayed up. City were still going to finish second. They needed 2 goals. And now that game finished, it was just frightening. And it worked out good in a way, how it fell. Obviously, Man U fans won't think that, but we were both celebrating on the pitch at the end. So we stayed up, they won league. So it was a massive party on the pitch from both sets of fans.
I can see the Seaman frame shirt on your wall. Was that an auction item you bought, or was that actually from the man himself? I did wonder.
No, so when we played him in the Old Trafford in the semi-final FA Cup, I don't know if you remember back, it was his 1000th career game.
Yeah.
And he gave me his shirt after the game, and obviously made that there were a massive hype about that save on it because they were saying it could have been one of the best saves ever, which, by the way, were the best save I've ever seen live.
Yeah, amazing.
Even though at the time I didn't realise how good it was because I were at other end of pitch.
Yeah.
And he gave me the shirt, and then I remember we'd had ridiculous amount of games, and I remember Warnock saying to us this was, so that were on Sunday after the game, he just said, "Have tomorrow off, lads. I'll see you at the ground on Tuesday." We're playing Forest on the Tuesday, so we didn't even train like the next day. We just had day off and turned up for the match, which we managed to win 1-0 anyway. And when I pulled up at Bramall Lane, I was literally pulling up, and my phone went, and he went, "Is that Paddy?" A number I didn't know, and I was like, "Yeah, who's this?" He went, "It's David Seaman." And I went, "Yeah, good one," and put the phone down. So, I forget who rung me now from club, but someone rung me and said, "Dave Seaman's rung up. He wants your number. We've given you your number. He's going to ring you back. Answer to it's definitely him." And I'm like,
wow.
So anyway, he rings me back, and he just said, "Listen, I forgot that it was my 1000th career game that I played in because of all the hype about the save." He says, "What's the chances of me having my shirt back, please?" He went, "And if you do," he says, "I'll send you my other shirt from that game."
Yeah.
And the signed pair of gloves. And there they are.
Lovely. And that's your prized possession, is it, in terms of football memorabilia?
With all my shirts as well. Do you know?
Yeah, brilliant. So you talked about regrets. Do you have many when you look back? Obviously, you talk about the Wolves game and missing out there, but are there any others or not?
In career or in life?
Yeah, career.
Everything. Career. No, not really. I don't think you can have regrets when it comes to that. Listen, until I've been doing all these podcasts and sat down with Danny Hall and done my book, and it made me realise with the cards I were dealt, coming into football quite late, never having a goalkeeping coach full-time, well, until I was 24, and then full-time until I was 20. I didn't have a full-time goalie coach until I was 25. So on natural ability alone, I got to my second season at Sheffield United somehow.
Yeah.
Being so raw and just natural ability, basically. And to achieve all that has made me realise that what an unbelievable career I achieved without blowing my own trumpet. And I'm just proud of what I did. I obviously went on to play for my country, playing the Premier League twice. And play over 600 career games, I think, is a massive achievement, and no, definitely no regrets.
No, I mean, it is a massive achievement. And in terms of, this is going to sound awful the way I phrase it, but I can't think how else to do it. Physical appearance, Paddy, if I bumped into you in the street, I would never say you're a professional footballer. Is that all muscle?
You know it is. No. Oh, do you know what?
Because you're not, are you? You're not. If we're honest, joking apart, if you looked at yourself in the mirror at times, I'm sure you'd have thought, "There's no way that kid."
I always carried a bit of weight. I always weighed every other morning. I always had most body fat in club, but I always look back. And Andy Leaning, we always said this. He went, "Apart from you having an impact injury at Crystal Palace, you're out for 4 months with your knee injury." He says, apart from the odd little pulled groin, pulled thigh, which are out 3 or 4 weeks, he never really had any injuries. And he always says to me, "I think that's because of the build you were."
Yeah.
And I remember one time, and I don't know if you've heard this story, but I say it in my book, Tony Daly was fitness coach, and I got him, I says, "Come on, we're going to lose some weight, we're going to get on it." And I went on a diet and lost like 10, 11 pounds, 12 pounds, something like that, excuse me. And my body fat went down 3 or 4%. I wasn't like happy days. And then for next month, it were that I was playing crap. I just felt like I couldn't buy a save.
Yeah.
Were that I was making loads of mistakes. And Warnock got me in his office and he said, where I always need you, you always make them important saves when I need them. When we're 0-0 or 0-0 and we make that save when I need you. He says, "What, you ain't done nothing for weeks and weeks. What's up here?" And I went, "Do you know what, Gaffer? I've not felt right since I lost that weight." He went, "What? Why? What have you done?" So I said, "I told him a story." And he went, and obviously I'm not going to repeat some words he said, but basically, get in your car, get to McDonald's on your way home and get that weight put back on now.
Oh, I love
Obviously,
it.
he worded it a little bit differently to that.
Well, in case anybody didn't know who's been watching this, Paddy's got a book out. He's only mentioned it a few. He's only mentioned it a few times in the book.
It's downstairs. I need to.
Oh, it's called the glove.
Wall behind me, shouldn't I?
Listen, everybody's seen it already.
Oh, wait, that's here. Look, there we go. My book.
What's that? A diary? It's called The Gloves Are Off. Why do a book? It's for that. It's to pay for that wedding, isn't it? That's coming up. That's what it is.
I think when I got asked a few years ago to do one,
right?
I worked that up for it. If I'm honest, things were going differently in my life. I worked in a good place, if I'm honest. And then when I had the opportunity, when my old agent who said he'd spoke to Danny Hall and just said an agent of mine called Lee Payne, he says, why you haven't done a book? He says, because the character you've been, the on and off the pitch antics that have happened. He says, it's got to be a good read, surely. He said, it's not like your normal footballer who's so predictable. Though. He says, the stuff that have gone off on the pitch, off the pitch, he says, it's just drama. He says, your stuff happened with your ex-wife, your eyebrow, your drugs ban, everything. He says, you put all that in, he says, it's got to, and all your story, it's got to be a good read. And thankfully, it's come back. I've had nothing but amazing reviews on it, and I'm so glad I've done it now. And it's, like I said, it's been a bit of therapy for me and all, because
I was going to say, has it been cathartic for you?
Yeah, I got asked the question about, has it brought back loads of memories, having to go into your personal life and talk about all that, and I felt like it was good for me to go through it all and think, well, every time I've been knocked down, I've come back and bounced back and proved people wrong and shown what sort of character I'm deep down, and I'm just so glad I've done it, and just that people are, the amount of the good feedback, the feedback it gets amazing, and I can't thank people enough who have bought it and read it and have told me that they've really enjoyed it. I've had people who've read it in a day and a half, come back to me, said they couldn't put it down, and it's like, wow. It took me about, when Danny Hall wrote all the chapters out and was sending them me on email, it took me about 3 months to get through them. I was putting it, honestly, it was a nightmare.
Well,
so I don't know how people have read it in a day.
So it's available in all good bookshops, is it? You can get it online as well?
Yeah.
In time for
Edition.com, Amazon. I'm trying to think what else.
Just type it in Google, it'll bring it up everywhere, no doubt.
W.H. Smith's at Meadowhall.
All right, okay.
Waterstone.
All right.
Shop.
We get the idea.
My house.
Yeah, get round to Paddy's, obviously, when we can, at a safe distance. But you're in a good place, Paddy, are you, at the moment? Yeah,
really good, mate. Listen, when I retired, I worked in a good place. I didn't know what I wanted to do. After I finished at Northampton, obviously, I went goalkeeping coach there with Robert Page, who's a good friend of mine, and he took me there. If I'm honest, I didn't enjoy it. I don't know whether it were the travelling, because I was travelling every day, and it took its toll on me. And I come away from it after 7 months and felt like I didn't enjoy it. And then, like I said, I worked in a good place for a good 6-7 months, and I managed to get into doing car transporting, and I've set up I worked for a friend of mine for a bit and ended up falling out with him, and then decided to set up on my own and done that. And I mean,
but that's driving though. That's more driving. You said you didn't like driving.
I don't mind the driving. It's the pressure that comes with it as well.
All right.
The hours I were doing, 16-hour days I were doing. When I were playing, I was going for an hour and a half. Well, like, what's all this about? Wow, I took it for granted when I was playing, just turning up and going training and going off home. But like I said, I've got my own business now, and I enjoy doing that. And do you know what I do? And I tell this to a lot of people, and some people, until I say it, don't realise. Do you know what I love weekends to myself now. Every other weekend I have my girls, and then the following weekend I do what I want.
Quite guess what I'm
doing
jealous.
Guess what I'm doing this Saturday?
What?
Believe it or not, you're going to laugh. I've not got kids this weekend. on Saturday at 10:30. I've only just had a message before I come on here. A friend of mine who I met when I was doing some work, he's called John Cherry.
Right.
He worked at Audi at Nottingham. He was a bit of a goalkeeper himself and played a bit of non-league football and all that lot. His dad was Steve Cherry.
Oh, right, yeah, no, Steve Cherry, yeah.
And I've seen him on his Instagram doing a bit of coaching. So, because I'm trying to get a bit of fitness back into me, I rung him today and said, what's the chance of putting a session on for me? So I'm doing my first goalkeeping session in about 3 or 4 years on Saturday.
Wow, how's that going to go?
Well, he's going to video it, so depending on how it goes, if I'm still here after it, I'll send it.
Oh, I'd love to be there for that.
Oh, I'll promise you I'll send it when I'm spark on floor like that.
I'd love to be there for that. Sadly, I'm going to be watching Rotherham. Not sadly because it's Rotherham, but I'm watching Rotherham.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd have been there to watch that. That would have been funny. Well, listen, best of luck with the book. Best of luck with the wedding when it comes round.
Thank you.
You're in a good place, mate. Thanks for taking the time out to talk to us.
Anytime, anything for you, mate. It's just been good to see you, mate. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It certainly has, mate. But we will.
You know where I am if you ever need out else.
Oh, I will do, mate. If I need a car transporting, I know where to go.
You know it. And if you need anyone to back ram me up, I'm here.
Top man. Cheers, Paddy. Ladies and gents, Paddy Kenny.